Hello, and welcome back to our channel and another exciting STEAM Saturday episode. I'm Miss Dani, and today is a very special STEAM Saturday too. Can anyone tell me what tomorrow is? That's right, tomorrow's Mother's Day. Here's a little history on this holiday. Mother's Day was established through the heartfelt efforts of one very strong woman. Her name was Anna Jarvis. The day was officially designated in 1914 under President Woodrow Wilson. At the time, other women had also proposed similarly named Mother's Day celebrations. These women intended the holiday to also symbolize the day of peace for mothers whose children had become soldiers. Many Mother's Day celebrations ever since have been used as days to celebrate peace and to bring attention to the need in our world for kindness and motherly love. Wow! Mother's Day is really deep. We wanted to make a piece of art with you today that you could give your mom or caretaker as a token of your love and appreciation for all that they do every single day to take care of you. This is a simple but beautiful written art form called poetry. I'm sure many of you have heard of poetry before and have experienced it in music, movies, maybe even a play. Poetry, by its official definition, is a literary work in which special intensity is given to the expression of feelings and ideas by the use of distinctive styles and rhythms. This is a very fancy way of saying a beautiful way of expressing your feelings, emotions, or aspirations towards someone or something using beautiful words and with a little help from literary devices and rhythm. You know that stuff that makes you want to dance? It lives in writing too. Or you could choose to have no rhythm in your poetry and just write. That's a type of poetry too. Oh yes, and there are very many different kinds of poetry to choose from. Today, we're going to be talking about 3 different styles of poetry, as well as 3 prominent artists from each style. Joining me on this journey today is Miss Isabel, Mr. Daniel, and Miss Rebecca.
Thank you, Miss Dani. Hey everyone, I'm Miss Isabel. And today we're going to talk about a really cool form of poetry, invented in Japan. This ancient style is called a haiku. A haiku is a 3-line poem with 17 syllables, written in a 5-7-5 syllable count. That means that the first line is 5 syllables, the second line is 7 syllables, and the third line is 5 syllables again. Does everyone know what a syllable is? A syllable is a vowel sound in a word. Words like cat only have 1 syllable, while words like banana have 3 syllables. You can usually count syllables by sounding a word out and counting on your hand, like I just did. Most of the time, the amount of syllables a word has is the same as the amount of vowels the word has. The letters A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y are all vowels. Really quickly sound out your name and see if you can find how many syllables it is. My name is Isabel, so Isabel has 3 syllables and 3 vowels. Okay, back to poetry. Often focusing on images from nature, haiku emphasizes simplicity, intensity, and directness of expression. Here's an example that I wrote earlier. I was inspired by the smell of pine needles on my hike. But you can write about anything you want. And you don't have to explain your poem either. You can just let it be. That's the beauty of a haiku. Here's my poem, and I'll sound out the syllables for you while I read. Sun on pine needles, with the rich smell of the bay. Summers long ago. So like I said earlier, it has 5, 7, then 5 again. What is really cool about this style is that it has reached far beyond its original landscape in Japan, and all the way into the world of the renowned haiku writer Sonia Sanchez in New York. Sonia Sanchez was a remarkable woman who lived most of her young life in Harlem. She grew up without her mom in a very unfriendly world to young African American women and learned to spread love and beauty using the simplicity of her haikus. Miss Sanchez has won a variety of awards for her children's books and has written over a dozen collected poetry books, including her famous Morning Haiku. For more information about this amazing poet, check out the link we have in the description box for you. Now, here's Mr. Daniel. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Miss Isabel, and welcome back to STEAM Saturday, friends. I'm excited to explore a really cool poetry style with you all today called lyrical poetry. If you can recognize the root word lyric in lyrical, then it can be a good tool for remembering that this is the type of poetry that is used in writing and was originally meant to be sung and not spoken. This style was developed in ancient Greece, where it would be performed to the tune of an instrument called a lyre. It kind of looks like a harp. These poems tend to be relatively short, but filled with colorful imagery and powerful and emotional language. Some examples of these words are words like blissful, joyous, delighted, overjoyed, thankful, and festive. Finally, I wanted to briefly highlight a very well-known poet who specialized in this particular style. Her name is Ms. Alice Walker, and her works on both poetry and nonfiction writings are world-renowned. Miss Walker is an internationally celebrated writer, poet, and activist whose books include 7 novels, 4 collections of short stories, 4 children's books, and volumes of essays and poetry. She also won the Pulitzer Prize in Fiction in 1983 and the National Book Award. You may know one of her works that is very famous, called The Color Purple. Miss Walker's poetry has often been referred to as lyrical, with a new, unique Southern style that really helps the reader paint a picture of what the landscape looked like when she was a young woman. All right, friends, you can find a lot of cool interviews with Ms. Walker right here on YouTube. Just give it a quick search. And now for Miss Rebecca, who's going to tell us about our third and final type of poetry for today.
Thanks, Mr. Daniel. Hi, everyone. I'm Miss Rebecca. I see that you've already learned all about haikus and lyrical poems, which have very unique and interesting characteristics. The style that I'm about to show you is a little different because it has no official rhyme scheme or rhythmic parameter. This means you can create a poem that doesn't necessarily rhyme or sound like a song, such as in the lyrical style, and is not restricted to syllable sizes either, such as in haikus. The style I'm referring to is formally called free verse, and usually showcases your creative use of words, or rhetoric, as well as the use of literary devices, such as similes and metaphors. Similes and metaphors are both ways to create imagery and emotion in your poetry by comparing your subject to something else. A simile is a comparison using like or as. For example, my hair is as pink as cotton candy, or my brother is as tall as a tree. A metaphor is a comparison without using like or as. With a metaphor, you can just straight up call one thing something else. Like this. When my cat is following a bug across the kitchen floor, he is a wild Sumatran tiger stalking a deer through the grasslands. What do you think? If you can think of another example of a simile or a metaphor, comment below. I hope you're starting to get some ideas for your own poems. When I was first thinking about writing a poem for Mother's Day, I was actually getting a little sad because my mom lives far away in Boston, Massachusetts, and I miss her and the rest of my family very much. Since we're all staying home right now to keep ourselves and others safe from coronavirus, I can't go to visit to celebrate Mother's Day in person. So instead, I decided I'll write her a short free verse poem, and I'm going to make her a card with the poem on the front that I can send in the mail. I use simile and metaphor in my poem to try and show some of the many reasons that I'm thankful for my mom. I also found it really helpful to start off by making a quick list of happy memories, ideas, and feelings that came to mind when I thought of my mom and my family. Then I put some of those ideas together in a new way to make a free verse poem. I'm grateful for you, Mom, because you showed me there's beauty in every kind of weather. Eating corn on the cob for dinner in the warm backyard, watching lightning break from the front porch, hot chocolate like liquid gold on a snow day. Thanks to you, I know that through every storm, there are joys to celebrate and rainbows to look forward to. Thanks for letting me share my poem with you all. It was a little scary, but I hope it helps to inspire you to express yourself as well. For one more piece of inspiration before I go, I also want to tell you about another really cool poet named Nikki Giovanni. Nikki Giovanni uses free verse poetry and lots of other forms of writing to speak her mind on powerful subjects like childhood, motherhood, racial and gender inequality, and her personal experiences with prejudice as a Black single mother. Giovanni wrote poetry that would help people freely express their pain, but also their tenacity and bravery in the face of hatred. Nikki Giovanni even uses free verse poetry to write children's poems that highlight the freedom and happiness that children have and bring into the lives of moms and other caretakers. If you want to read up some more on Nikki Giovanni, just follow the link in the description below.
Thank you, Miss Rebecca, and thank you so much for all the wonderful insight, everyone. I'll be sharing with you a poem I wrote for my mom in the lyrical style because it rhymes, and it's also in English and Spanish. We can't wait to see what beautiful poems you all come up with for someone special in your lives. Remember, you can take your poem and decorate it by drawing in some beautiful images on the borders around the poem, like this, to make it into a lovely gift. Don't worry too much about the rules. All that matters is that you express yourself and create something unique and special, and that your loved one can always read and be reminded of how much you appreciate all that they do. Thank you for joining us again, and we hope to see you again next week. Bye!